Hello students. So here in this presentation, I'm starting with a new chapter, chapter 3, which is the basis of human behavior. In this presentation, I will be covering evolutionary perspective, biological and cultural growths, biological basis of behavior, under which there are neurons, nerve impulse, synapse, and then moving on to structures and functions of nervous system and endocrine system and their relationship with behavior and experience.
Evolutionary perspective. Now, I'm pretty sure that you must have observed that people differ with respect to their physical and psychological characteristics, isn't it? So, the uniqueness of individuals results from the interaction of their genetic endowments and environmental demands. Yes? So, in this world, there are millions of different species of organisms differing in a variety of ways. So, biologists believe that these species were not always like this. They have evolved to their present form from their pre existing forms. Okay, so a perspective that looks at the effect that psychological adaptation and natural selection has on human behavior. So evolution refers to the change over successive generations of the genetic makeup of a particular animal population. Okay, and the central idea of an evolutionary perspective to animal traits is that animal species are changeable rather than fixed, and that change is likely to be caused by the process of natural selection. Evolutionary changes are passed from one generation to the next within a species, and this process proceeds at a very slow pace. And it is estimated that the characteristics of modern human beings developed some 200,000 years ago as a result of their continuous interaction with the environment. Okay. Now, due to the process of evolution in the present day, we human beings are different from our ancestors in three ways. Now, this is very interesting. The first way is that we human beings now have a bigger and developed brain with increased capacity for cognitive behaviors like perception, memory, reasoning, problem solving, and use of language for communication. Okay, second way is that ability to walk upright on two legs. And third, a free hand with a workable opposing thumb. So these features have been with us for several thousand years. Now, if you look into the evolutionary perspective, you must have known so far that we have evolved from the apes, the monkeys, yes? So if you see that evolutionary time back at that period, the human beings now have bigger and developed brain. If you look back, or even if you look at the apes, their brain is not bigger and it is not developed like that of us human beings. They don't have the ability uh, or capacity for cognitive behaviors. They cannot involve themselves into perception or into reasoning, problem solving, memory. It is a little bit difficult for them. I'm not saying it is absolutely absent, but it is not equal to that of us human beings. And then we have two legs and we have the ability to walk upright. And third, it is most important way is that a free hand with a workable opposing thumb we have. We have a thumb. You cannot find this thumb in any other creature. Because of this thumb, we can hold precisely the objects we have the ability to move around, and then we can also make use of certain things. We can use our phone, we can use our computer, we can hold, we can grab, just with the help of this thumb. Imagine if you have no thumb, will you be able to do your work properly? Think about it. Now, see, our behaviors are highly complex and more developed than those of other species because we have got a large and highly developed brain. And human brain development is evidenced by two facts. Firstly, the weight of the brain is about 2.35% of the total body weight, and it is the highest among all species. Okay, and secondly, the human cerebrum is more evolved than other parts of the brain. If you look in the picture, you can clearly see how it has been evolved from our ancestors. Biological and cultural roles. An important determinant of our behavior is the biological structures that we have inherited from our ancestors in the form of developed body and brain. Okay, so we human beings are product of our biological and cultural roots. We cannot say that we are the product of only the biological base or the cultural base. It is not like that. So our biological structure is a main determiner, and this structure we inherit in the form of body and brain from our ancestors. Okay, an individual's biological system determines the limits, but these limits will be realized or not, that depends on his or her cultural system. Okay, so the importance of such biological bases become obvious when we observe cases in which brain cells have been destroyed by any disease, use of drug, or an accident. Now, the culture provides us with different experiences and opportunities of learning. So, individual's personality is basically the product of this biological and cultural factors. Okay, so we have got two parts. One is biological and another is the cultural, right? So, right now we will see the biological basis of behavior. Okay, where at first I will discuss about the neurons. I hope you all know about neurons, right? You all have done in the biology class. So what are neurons? Neurons are the basic unit of our nervous system. Okay, so neurons are specialized cells which possess the unique property of converting various forms of stimuli into electrical impulses. So they are also specialized for reception, conduction, and transmission of information in the form of electrochemical signals. Okay, you see, there are nearly 12 billion neurons which are found in the human nervous system. Okay, which are of many types and vary considerably in shape, size, chemical compositions, and functions. But they share three fundamental components which you will find in any type of neuron, whether they vary in shape, size, chemical compositions, but these three fundamental components are existing in all types of neurons. Okay, whether be it sensory neuron, motor neuron, pyramidal neuron, astrocyte neuron, bed cell neuron, microglia neuron. These are not required for you, but it is just I wanted to mention about the types of neurons. So over there, whatever be it, there are these three fundamental components which are the soma, dendrites, and axon. So in any neuron, we find soma, dendrites, and axon, right? Now here I have provided a picture, a diagram of neuron. So here the soma or the cell body. Soma means body, okay? So the soma or cell body is the main body of the nerve cell. And the soma contains most of the cytoplasm. Cytoplasm means cell fluid of the neuron. Okay. It contains the nucleus of the cell as well as other structures which is common to living cells of all types. Okay, and the genetic material of neuron is stored inside the nucleus. In the diagram you can see in the middle there is this nucleus. Then there are dendrites, which are the branch-like structures emanating from the soma. You can see certain branch-like structures that are emanating from the cell body. Okay, they are the receiving ends of a neuron. Their function is to receive the incoming neural impulses from adjacent neurons or directly from the sense organs. Okay, so they receive uh, incoming neural impulses from the sense organs. And on dendrites are found specialized receptors which become active when a signal arrives in electrochemical or biochemical form. Okay, and the received signals are passed on to soma and then to axon so that the information is relayed to another neuron or to muscles. So this is basically the function of the dendrites. Okay, the neuron. The function of when in exam you are being asked what are the function of a neuron, so you can write like this, that the neuron consists of the cell body. There are these dendrites. Then on the dendrites are found specialized receptors which become active when a signal arrives in electrochemical or biochemical form. Okay, and the received signals are passed on to the cell body and then to axon so that the information is relayed to another neuron. That means the information are being transmitted to another neuron or to muscles. Okay, it might go to another neuron, or it might go to muscles. So, and at the terminal point, the axon branches into small structures, which are called terminal buttons. Okay, which have the capability for transmitting information to another neuron, gland, and muscle. Now here in another diagram you can see the anatomy of two neurons. In the first diagram I have shown just one diagram. So here you can see how it is being transmitted to another neuron. Okay, the nerve impulses, it moves on from dendrites to cell body through nucleus, and it moves on to this long structure covered in myelin sheath. This is the axon, this long structure, and at the end there are the terminal buttons which again links to another point of the dendrite, and then it again transmits the information to another neuron or to muscles. Okay, so with this way the information are being passed on, are being transmitted from the sense organs to the muscles, or from the muscles to the sense organs. Okay, so vice versa. Now look in the picture, the diagram over here on the right side, the afferent and efferent nerve parts. Okay, so there are basically two nerves. One is afferent nerve and another is efferent nerve. Okay, so the conduction of information from one place to another in the nervous system is done through nerves, which are bundles of axons. And nerves are mainly of two types, sensory and motor. The sensory nerves are called afferent nerves, and the motor nerves are called as efferent nerves. Okay, afferent is the sensory and efferent is the motor. Now what happens on of afferent nerves? It carries CNS inputs. Okay, central nervous system input, where from sense organs the efferents arrive to the CNS. Okay, through the spinal cord it reaches the CNS, that is central nervous system, to the brain, and from brain, that is the efferent nerve carries out the information. It carries central nervous system outputs. Whatever be the action, it moves out from the central nervous system through the efferent nerve. That is the motor nerves. And efferents exist. So just remember that efferents arrive and efferents exit. So once it arrives from skin, the senses, sensory nerves, it reaches the central nervous system, and whatever be the action, it moves out from the central nervous system through the efferent nerves, that is the motor nerves. Okay. Next, we have nerve impulse. The nerve impulse is the passage of nerve sensation from one place to another through electrochemical process of conduction in the nerve. And what are the function of nerve impulse? The function of nerve impulse is that information travels within the nervous system in the form of nerve impulse. Okay, so when the stimulus energy comes into contact with receptors, electrical changes in the nerve potential starts. That means nerve potential is a sudden change in the electrical potential of the surface of a neuron. Okay, and the rule that a neuron will always respond with its complete strength to a stimulus or will not respond at all regardless of the stimulus magnitude is known as the all or none principle. So therefore a neuron either conduct or does not conduct an impulse. So whenever the information travels within the nervous system in the form of nerve impulse, it creates some certain kind of electrical changes in the nerve potential. There is a friction in between and it reaches to the central nervous system with certain kind of electrical impulse. Okay, electrical changes there. So there is a rule that a neuron will always respond with its complete strength to a stimulus. That means to an event or to any change depending on the strength. Now, if something uh, if a small ant is moving across, is crawling across our body, and you don't feel anything, so at that time, what will happen? It might not respond, and the information that there is a ant crawling, it will not reach to the brain because the neuron will not respond to it completely because the strength of the stimulus is less, is weak. Okay. Now, on the other hand, imagine that if a person is paralyzed, okay, so when there is paralysis in one part of the body, there is chance that the person might not feel anything. So when the person is not feeling anything, any kind of stimulus change that might uh, reach or that might attach the body weight, the person will not feel anything. So if the person is not feeling anything, that means it is not strong enough. The stimulus, the strength of the stimulus is not completely strong or powerful. So in that case, the neuron will not respond and it will not reach to the brain. Getting the point? Once it is strong enough, now if I'm sensitive enough, my everything is working well, I'm not paralyzed, and uh, a mosquito comes and bites me, what will happen? Of course I will react to it, and that response was so strong, that stimulus was so strong, the neuron will respond and it will reach quickly. Within fraction of seconds it will reach to the brain and I will react to it. Okay, so the magnitude, the stimulus magnitude is known as the all or none principle. Okay, that they respond to it. So a neuron either conduct or does not conduct an impulse at all. And then nerve impulse is necessary for the process of communication. So the strength of nerve impulse remains constant along the nerve fiber. Next, let's understand what a synapse is. The synapse is the junction between the axon tip of the sending neuron and the dendrite or cell body of the receiving neuron. Okay. So the tiny gap. Suppose there are two neurons, and as we know by now that there is this axon tip, that is the sending neuron, one neuron which is sending the message, and another, and in a new neuron there is this dendrite or a cell body which are receiving this neuron. Okay, now with the first neuron and the second neuron, there is this tiny gap in between. Okay, so the tiny gap at this junction is called the synaptic gap or the synaptic cleft. Both are correct. Whether you can call it a synaptic gap or the synaptic cleft. Okay, because a neuron is never physically connected with another neuron. There is a small gap between the two. Okay, and the conduction of nerve impulse in the axon is electrochemical, with the nature of synaptic transmission is chemical. Okay, so the chemical substances are known as neurotransmitters. Don't mistake it with some kind of like what are these neurotransmitters. There might be some neurons or something like that. No, but neurotransmitters are nothing but these are certain kind of chemical substances. We have certain neurotransmitters in our brain, like that of dopamine and serotonin, which are very effective in our emotions. Okay, where in some people these chemical substances might be more, transmission might be more, secretion might be more, or in some there might be less secretion. Next topic is structure and functions of nervous system and endocrine system and the relationship with behavior and experience. Now here there is a flow chart which I have just included, and this one I will do in the next part. In the next presentation I will cover it. So here just briefly I am covering it up, showing you all that nervous system, it is divided into central nervous system CNS and peripheral nervous system, that is PNS, where under PNS there are certain neural tissue outside brain and spinal cord. Okay, then central nervous system is further divided into the brain and the spinal cord. Brain consists of the hindbrain, midbrain and forebrain, and spinal cord, it is the ascending pathways, interneurons and descending pathway. Okay, then the peripheral nervous system, PNS, it is further divided into somatic nervous system and autonomic nervous system. And the autonomic nervous system is further divided into sympathetic division and parasympathetic division. This all you all have done in your biology class, I'm sure, in your previous year classes, and this will be more clear to you people in this subject. Okay, because you have to go in details each and everything. So as a whole, you can see that the brain, the parasympathetic division, everything as a whole, the central nervous system, it is comprising of the endocrine system. Okay, so this I will do in detail in our next session, and I will also provide it in the PowerPoint presentation. Okay, let's go through once again and try to understand. If you have any problem, you all can ask. Thank you.